Okay, this tutorial is going to be a tutorial on RIP version 2 and the benefits of RIP version 2 versus RIP version 1. And I'm going to build it off of a network that I created in Packet Tracer on previous tutorial. Right now this network is working, right, because of static routes. So it's working because of static routes, and not just static routes, summary routes. So we created I created all these summary routes to make this router work. And what we're going to do is we're going to remove these static routes, and we're going to see if the network will work with RIP, and it will probably fail. And so then we'll have to use RIP version 2 to make this network work. And because RIP version 2 can support classless addressing, or CIDR, CIDR. So what I'll do is I'll change this. This is going to be a packet tracer on RIP version 2. Okay, and benefits. So let's get started. So what I'm going to do is, and very quickly, I'm going to go into this router, and I'll go to config, and I'm just going to cheat here a little bit because it's quicker. I'll go to static, and I'll highlight this static route. This is my summary route to everything, and I'll hit remove. And you can see down here the command. It's actually just, the command's pretty easy in global config mode. It's no IP route, and then the route that you had in there, right? So it's pretty easy. So I've just removed the static route from this router, and I'll do the same thing over here. So I'll go in here, config, static, highlight, remove. Notice the no IP route command down here. And I'll go here and go to config, static, and I'll highlight this route and remove this router. Over here had two routes, so I've got to remove both of these static routes. So I'm going to remove both of those. Okay, so now the network is broken because we have no routes, so hosts are not going to be able to ping outside of their network. Okay, now we're going to configure it with RIP, and it's probably not going to work because why? This network over here is 173.16.64/23. That's not classful. RIP can only see the 173.16/16 because it functions off of a classful subnet mask, which would be /16 based on the IP address 173. So it's going to have a hard time differentiating these different networks because they've been subnetted classlessly. But still, we'll give it a try and see what happens. So we'll start with this router right here. We've got a 209.165.201 network. All right, so we'll go here, and we'll do this from the command line though. Okay, and so I'm already in global config mode right here, which is fine. I'll exit out just to start from scratch here. Alright, press return to get started. Okay, we do that. We type enable configure terminal, and now we're in global config mode. We'll say router RIP, and then we give it the network, and the network is 209.165.201.0 and hit enter, right? So now I'll do a control C or exit here, right? And let's just take a look, control C, and do a show run command. And you can see router RIP, and there is our network, right? Now the network is showing up as 209.165.201.0. RIP thinks this is a /24 network, when in fact you can tell that on the interface it's actually /30. So it's been subnetted classlessly. So that's particularly how RIP does not support this type of these types of networks. So we're going to go to this next router, and we'll do the same thing. Go to the command line interface, and we're already in global config mode, so we'll just stay here. Router RIP, and then network, and we're going to put in the networks. Now the networks are 173.16.64 64.0, right? Then there's also the 66 network, right? And then there's the 71 network, right? So 3 networks that are attached. Okay, and I'll type exit and Control C. And so once again, the 64 network, the 66 network, and the 71 network that are attached. Now, of course, if we do a show run and take a look at it, you'll see RIP only sees the one network. Okay, and last but not least, we'll do this. So we'll stay here in global config mode, router RIP. Now I'm in RIP configuration or router configuration mode, network, the 71 network, which is attached, right? And then we've got a few networks that we also have to put in, the 68 network and the 69 network. Okay. And everything is set now. All of these 3 routers are running RIP. They're now exchanging routing updates or RIP updates with each other, and they should be learning about the networks. So, and we should be able to ping across the networks. So let's see if we can ping this guy 173.16.68.2 from this computer here. Right? If everything's working, we should be able to ping him. Let's go to command prompt. Okay, and you can see here, destination host unreachable. We're not able to reach him, right? We can look in the routing table of this router to see what it's learned about. Okay, and you can see that it knows about its 64 and 66 network /23s because they're directly connected, right? C, right? C. It hasn't learned any RIP routes. Okay, even though RIP is running on the router, right? Show run. RIP is running, right? And over here on this router, you can see that RIP is running, right? And this router, we'll take a look, also has not learned about any RIP routes, right? So this network is not functioning at all. Well, why? They're all 173.16 networks, and RIP cannot differentiate all these classless networks, right? It's just having a hard time doing that. So let's see if we can fix this with RIP version 2. Okay, here we go. So now what we'll do is we'll go back into this router and router RIP, and we'll type in version 2. We're also going to put in a command here, no auto summary. All right, do a Control C and do a show run command, and you can see here version 2, the network, and no auto summary. That's good. Okay, it's just connected to one network. So now we'll do the same thing on this router. So we'll go here, version 2, and no tab completion here, no auto summary. I'll type end. All right, I'll close that, go to this router, do the same thing. Whoops. Version 2, no auto summary, right? Done. So now let's just make sure that this has all the networks that we need in it. Well, it still only sees the one network showing up here, right? But we did input all of the networks, and not only that, it's going to see these /24s, which are not classful here. 173.16 is normally /16, so this is 173.16.68/24. So since this is a not classful subnet mask, RIPv2 will figure it out based on the fact that these are connected to the router. So let's take a peek, see if it worked. All right, first of all, we'll go to this PC and we'll see if we can ping across the network again. Okay, ping, and there's the reply. And as you can see, can now communicate across the network because we're using RIPv2 instead of RIPv1. Let's look in this router and take a look at its routing table. There's show IP route command for the routing table. You can see it's learned about 2 RIP routes to the 68 network and the 69 network /24s, which is not classful, right? And you can see here it's administrative distance 120. That means it's RIP, 1 hop away, right? It's completely learned about it. Over here, this router, same thing. Take a look. And it's learned about 2 RIP routes. And then over here, this router should have learned about quite a few routes. So we'll go here. We'll do show IP route. And this router has not learned about any routes. And that's interesting. Okay. Now this router has not learned about any RIP routes. Well, that's a problem. All right, if I put a host on here, we wouldn't be able to ping the host. So the question is, why hasn't this router learned about any RIP routes? And I think I know the answer. R1 here is connected to this interface, right? But if we look in the running configuration, you can see that I only told it about the 173.16 networks, which covered 173.16.64, 66, and 173.16.71. I never put in network 209 right here, and this router has it connected. So if I want it to participate and send RIP routing updates out of this interface to this router, I need to put that in there. So let's do that right now. Conf T, right, router RIP, right? We know it's already version 2. I don't even need to do that. But I could put in network 209.165.201.0. Okay. And now it's going to be good. So now if I close this and I open up this router and I do a show IP route command again, you see that now this router has learned indeed about the 64 network, the 66 network, the 68 network, the 69 network, and the 71 network, as well as its connected route. And so now this router has learned about all of the other networks that are out there.